We're here to see Jink, Reef said. Scar spoke up. Stanley Eisner. I was here before. The nurse nodded. I remember you. Is your friend? No, she said quickly. He's downstairs. He won't cause any more trouble. Like I told you and your friend before, the nurse continued, only members of the immediate family can see patients in ICU. I'm family, Reef said. I'm his brother. The nurse gave him a long look. Brother, you say? She reached behind her and pulled a chart from the carousel on the counter, flipped through it, looked up. His mother was here earlier. She didn't say anything about a brother. Reef leaned toward her. I'm his brother, he repeated slowly, then turned to Scar. And she's his half-sister on his father's side. The nurse looked at them both, seemed about to say something, then shrugged. 5 minutes, that's all. And if there's even the hint of a disturbance, I'm calling security. Thank you, Scar whispered. The nurse led them through a sliding glass door into a room with 4 beds. Only 2 of them were occupied. The one containing Jink was set against the far wall. Tubes entered his body at various places, including his mouth and nose. At least, Reef assumed they were his mouth and nose. His face was a swollen purple mass that bore no resemblance to Jink's real features, and Reef could see that the bruises and swelling extended to other parts of his body, many of them covered in bandages. A monitor beside the bed beeped at regular intervals, and a bag of clear liquid drained down a tube into Jink's arm. Christ, Reef said when the nurse had left them alone. Scar choked back sobs. I saw him through the glass before, she said, her voice a strangled gulp. But up close, she began to cry. Reef took her hand and squeezed it. Just think what the other guys must look like, he said. They both tried to force a smile but failed. Stood there listening to the beep of the monitor, trying not to see the snarl of tubes their friend had become. Colville met Reef on the veranda. How is he? You were right. No one knows anything for sure. Not yet, anyway. Reef went inside and headed for the stairs. Colville followed him. How are you doing? He asked softly. Reef just looked at him. Everyone's in the family room, Colville continued. Come on in. Look, Reef said, give me a break. Colville paused, seemed about to say something, then nodded. If you charge your, right, Reef interrupted, taking the stairs 2 at a time. He got to his room and sat on the edge of the bed, his feet tracing the pattern of the oval rug over and over. He got up and moved to one of the turrets, stood looking out the window, his fingers tugging unconsciously at the curtains. He ran a hand over his forehead, rubbed his eyes, put both hands in his pockets, took them out, and crossed his arms. Can I come in? Reef turned to see Alex in the doorway. Christ, he thought, turned again to the window. What do you want? Sorry to hear about your friend, Alex offered. So is everyone else. Reef just nodded. Alex entered the room and sat on the edge of the bed. You want to talk about it? No, I don't. Are you sure? His back to Alex, Reef made a sound that could have been a snort or a cough or a clearing of the throat. Then, I'm skipping the family room sharing shit tonight, okay? You know, it helps to say what your fee. Look, you may like all that garbage, but I don't. Why not? Asked Alex. Reef swung around to face him. Because it's nobody's goddamn business, that's why. What are you afraid of? Reef took the 3 steps from the window to the bed, his face dark and twisted. I ain't afraid of nothing. You got that, you little freak? That's denial, Reef, Alex replied calmly. Naming it's the first step in facing it. Reef leaned down so his mouth was inches from Alex's ear. What makes you think I gotta face anything? He shouted. I'm fine. You hear me? Better than fine. I'm fucking fantastic. Honey, Alex said, pushing up his sleeves and holding out his wrists, palms turned upward. That's exactly what I said the night I gave myself these. Thick, worm-like scars extended from his wrists up the insides of both arms. Reef gaped at the angry red furrows that stretched nearly to his elbows. Along both sides of each were indentations where surgical thread had pierced the flesh, stitching the edges together. One furrow was raised and darker in color near the center, as though whatever had carved it had met resistance before plunging on.